Welcome. We got some people in the chat
Yo.
here. Keith, I'm going to ask you how you are in a second here. But first, we're going to say what up to Sharp 24/7 Academy. Welcome. We're happy to have you. English Talks 2.0. I can't wait. Neither can we. Cross Central, welcome back. We appreciate having you here. We got BWOOOXOXO. What's up? Meme in their market right now. That's fire.
Yeah.
Does it always repeat like this? Yes, it is the intro until we get into it. We come on live. It's just to make it easier for everything to roll. But Keith, man, how are you?
Today's the best day of my life, Ben. How you doing?
Today's the best day of my life too, because I finally get to hear about your top books. And that's something that you've been asked for so many times. So within this episode, Keith and I have narrowed down our list of our top 5 book recommendations. So we're going to go through each of them. We're going to say our 5. And then if you want a more comprehensive list, we have just launched our Substack, and you can find that full list over on our Substack coming very, very soon. That'll be linked down below. And you'll also be able to find it at just memesandmarkets.com.
Ooh, ain't that something?
It,
yeah. So neither of us have actually heard each other's books here. So this is going to be a live reveal of our favorite books.
Yes, sir. You want to go first?
Okay. All right.
And how do you want to do it? Do you want to go back and forth, or do you want to go 5 in a row?
No. Back and forth for sure. And are these in any particular order, or do we just get to just go for them?
I'll leave that up to you, Keith.
Ooh, I don't know if I could actually order these books. I think the first one is going to be my most important one. So the first one we're going to go with, drum roll please, is a book by one of the most prolific authors of all time in modern history, especially in the world of entrepreneurship and in the world of thinking about how to grow rich. And so that's going to be Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Nice.
This book has a very special place in my heart for a couple of reasons. One of them is because it really marked the shift in my life around how I actually was more intentional about my thoughts and how it was that I actually would speak to myself, essentially. Now, it's been a really long time since I've read this book, I'm not going to lie. But what I do remember changed in my life after reading this book was just my ability to narrow in on my definiteness of purpose, right? And that's one of the major points of the book. It's like, you must have a definite purpose. And when you have that and you act from that, then everything else from there is going to start to fall into place. But have you read this book, Ben?
I have a few times, actually.
Very nice. Very nice.
I think why that's really important to double down on, and then I want to give you back the driver's seat. But why that's so important is because we talk about that so frequently, where most people are struggling through life because they're kind of going through it aimlessly, right? And so these problems that they even currently define as problems doesn't even make sense because you haven't defined what good would look like. So right. of course you're going to have problems infinitely because you don't even know what it would look like if you didn't have problems, right? So go ahead, Keith.
No, I mean, that's the major thing. So I'll walk through just some of the things that I can see that are in this book. So in the beginning of the book, and this is a specific version that has a foreword by Steve Harvey, it walks through Thomas Edison, a little bit of the story of him and how he thought his way, so how someone thought his way into partnership with Thomas Edison.
Mm-hmm.
And basically the whole premise of this book is that, you can look at this as like this rah woo woo, like manifest your dreams and this and that. But really, and this book is more on that side of things, but really what it all comes down to is when your brain is locked in on something, it's going to be aware of all the things that are relevant to it. So for instance, just some more like brain stuff. Our brains take our relationships with things, people, concepts, and puts them on like a map, right? Of how far or close those things are. So like people, for instance, in your life, if you have someone that's a sister or a brother, they're literally in your brain closer to one another, right? Than your cousin who might be a little bit further away. Like physically the places in your brain where that information about these people rests is further or closer away. And so when it comes to that thinking, it's like if everything is at a little distance in your brain, then the more that you expose yourself to certain ideas, concepts, thoughts, the closer the things uh, that are related to those things will be into your mind. So if I'm thinking all day about Jeff Bezos and how he's built his empire, and I actually study it and I look at it and I understand it, okay, my brain is going to literally have him being closer to me than someone who's not Jeff Bezos. And I will associate myself with Jeff Bezos more than I will potentially a cousin who I haven't talked to in 10 years. So, anyways, um, the book isn't about that in particular, but it really comes back down to this isn't really just raw spirituality stuff. There's actual science, neuroscience that backs these concepts of like when you really narrow in and you start to focus in on something in particular and you bring that back uh, into your everyday life, well, you naturally will start to apply these concepts and these things to everything that's happening around you in your life.
Totally, man. And what I love about that too is another theme that's come up again and again is how a lot of people are stuck in pendulums or programs, pick your word, where they're assigning importance to stuff that doesn't have to be important. Guys say this all the time too. Like a lot of times, like I was even on the phone with my mom, like literally yesterday, and she was talking about one person in particular that she's like, oh, I should have a relationship with this person who's like a total asshole. But because society is like telling her that she should have a relationship, I'm like, why are you even upset about this? You've never said anything nice about this person in my entire life. Like, why do you even care? But it's because you're attaching yourself to definitions and all these things, right? Where if you don't choose what you focus on, then you kind of get pushed through life, which is a very big thing. And but one point that I want to mention here from Andrew as well is that they said, great book. A bunch of the narratives it uses as examples are actually propaganda if you look into them, though. That is a good point to note. A lot of these really rich older guys, their version of like going on the podcast circuit was writing a book, right? So there is some amazing teachings within a lot of these older books, but you also have to remember that they didn't have social media, they didn't have TV a lot of, right? So this was also their means of mass communication at the same time, but the lessons are still timeless for sure.
Yeah, I've heard this over and over again as I've continued to kind of just talk about this stuff publicly, but otherwise I would have never heard any of that,
Mm.
honestly. Um, but yeah, it also kind of just it adds to it. It's like, okay, so they're telling these stories and romanticizing all of this stuff, and in reality, that might add to the way that you look at all of this, and it becomes more real to you, and then you create more real stuff from it. But that is good to know.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. So, do you have anything
Yeah,
else to
dude.
add on that one? Okay.
No, go ahead.
I'm gonna get this one out of the way early because I've mentioned it 40 times in this podcast, and so it's probably an obvious inclusion. It's the Almanac of Naval Ravikant. And so I think that everyone, like you guys need to do yourself the favor. This book is something like 20, $30, and it would only take you a weekend to read, honestly. And I think what can happen with this is that everyone's being forced to become an entrepreneur. Like that's literally happening in real time, which is why I started creating content the way that I did 7 years ago because I saw this was coming, and largely it was because of the things that Naval has been tweeting. I can't take full credit for that, and he basically tries to rewire your brain to seek out opportunity in high leverage spaces, and explains what those things are. And so I think one of the things that's so important to understand is that like abstract concepts stay that way until you get a deeper understanding of what they are, right? And then you start training your brain, much like Keith said, to seek out those opportunities and find them, right? So that's like you need to read that. Like, I'm not even gonna say it's an optional read. You have to read that. So that's my first book.
And there was this principle that we've talked about before that he talks about where it's like the different forms of leverage,
Mhm.
right? Um,
You want me to explain the four?
yes, yes.
Okay, so there's four primary forms of leverage in a capitalistic economy. There is human capital, which is people working for you. So Keith gave the example of it. If you have people working for you, you could theoretically be working around the clock, which is incredibly high leverage. It's also if you have the environment and the system where you've created a higher leverage outcome on their time, because around this system, what you're paying them is worth so much more to you because of the system that's built around them. But obviously that comes with a cost. So most people, what frustrates me so much about people, and I want you, if you're listening to this, to spot this in yourself, is that So many people have become career victims. And so if when there's three things in here that cost money, the victim and the loser gets obsessed with the three they can't do. And that shit drives me fucking insane because you literally can't have a conversation with people because they become so good at being like, well, that cost money. That guy got lucky. It's like, okay, maybe you're right on all of them. I don't give a shit. Do you want to be right or do you want to make your life better? Right. So the first one you can't do. Congratulations. You're right. You can't. Okay. But you can work to this. The next one is money because you can leverage money in different places, investments, in stocks, all these different places, and make money off of your money. That's leverage. That's something that obviously you need money to do. But the next two, you don't need money to do. So for all you complainers out there, here are the ones that you can do even if you're poor as shit. Okay. The first one is code. Anyone can go teach themselves to code. And with the tools that are out there now, code meaning building software, anyone can teach themselves to code nowadays, Keith. Like that's actually possible. And where the real creativity is going to come in is solving a very specific problem. But why code is such a high leverage endeavor is because it's built once and maintained, and the input output equation changes so dramatically because you can solve a lot more people's problems at scale. This is something that I've done. I run multiple software businesses. We're building another in the background right now. It is an incredibly high leverage thing that can do awesome things for people. The fourth one that anyone can do for sure is media. We have access to the internet now. You're watching us right now. This is media. This is something that you can do once and it can live on forever, especially if you're doing it the right way. Recurring thing we've talked about a lot, why we love YouTube so much, is because of the long content lifespan on this platform. If you start making YouTube content and you even remotely figure it out, you can be getting influence and income on autopilot for years after you've done this. And I'm living, breathing proof of this. I get passive income every single month from shit I did 5 years ago plus. So that's the 4 different kinds of leverage and what they entail and where you should start.
Love it. And so a couple things, because we talked about this last time we talked on the concept, but like the first one being, oh, I can't hire anyone because I don't have any money. Well, one of the other ways to get human capital on your side is through partnership, right?
Great call.
Finding people who are talented at what they do or that are missing something that you have and putting them in a position to win.
And you almost need to do that if you're broke, because if you even try to, and I made this mistake too, is that a not that good employee is worse than having no employee. Because if someone doesn't care about what they're touching, or they're lazy, or they have bad work ethic, like they can actually destroy something amazing. I've seen it happen. So especially with AI now, and people aren't going to like to hear this, but it's true. And most of the people that hate AI, they're lazy people. I even see the people that I know who like all the anti-AI stuff. They're super lazy people, objectively. Like I know they're lazy people. And so it's like, of course, they're going to be the most angry by this because it shows you that you're not that needed in your job. Right. And so I used to hire people who I'm like, okay, I can only afford like a few grand a month. So I'm going to go hire someone at this price point. And then they made my life harder, not better. So until you can hire someone who's actually really good, I wouldn't even worry about hiring someone. I would try to automate things to be scrappy. Or like Keith said, find a strategic partnership. But don't fall victim to the trap of going with someone just because you're friends with them or because you have similar skill sets. That's a mistake that I did a lot in my entrepreneurial journey, was I would hire someone who was just like me. And that is the dumbest thing you could possibly do. Why do you need 2 Bens? One's more than enough. You know what I mean? So that's something that I learned the hard way.
Very well put. Yeah, you definitely want to try to find complementary skills. I mean, it actually changes so much when you can have someone that can work with your weaknesses. This isn't one of our books, but since we're on the topic, there's a book called Managing Oneself by Peter Drucker, and it's super short. It's sort of like a pamphlet. And it's all about this kind of concept of like really recognizing what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and making sure that you're leaning into the things that you're actually good at the most. And then in this case, right, potentially partnering with people who can take over the other things that you're really weak at. And being intentional about that makes it to where now you guys are getting the most from each other, right? Both of you are getting a good deal.
Yes.
So, and just to give an example of what I think this can also look like, I've been back in the United States because I had to come back for a health emergency, and unfortunately, the passing of a friend's mother. And I met with someone at the ceremony, a younger kid. He's a little bit younger than me, and he's doing great. He's in university and he's working at He's working at a sports management agency, and he's thinking about going to law school, whatever. Da, da, da. And I was trying to like, dig into his mind a little bit about how he got this opportunity. I'm like, you're in high school or in college. Like, how are you already working in this field? And he said he found, a smaller firm, which I was sensing this, right? And it's a smaller firm. So the infrastructure's already been built. Okay. There's a company, it's successful, it's doing well, but it's small. So he's coming in and he's getting the opportunity to come and provide his expertise in the areas that he cares about and wants to grow with. And not only is he in the position here to, and the point of this really is also you don't have to do everything on your own. Okay. Like you can tap into an infrastructure that's already been built, be in an entrepreneurial kind of role, have the room to grow. And then from there, right, you can continue to build and thrive because this kid is going to come in and he's going to be able to be an entrepreneur in a company that's already been built. So instead of having to go all the way from zero, right, he can come in and be a partner in something that's already working. So this is a big hack for anyone who's trying to get ahead in life is the human capital side of things. It's like you can be that human capital too. And when you do that in a place where you've already got the infrastructure and you can still be entrepreneurial, that is a huge hack to getting super successful in a shorter period of time. Chamath Palihapitiya being the 11th or whatever at Facebook, like being in a growing ship like that is one of the biggest hacks to get ahead. So the other thing, and I'll shut up for a little bit, was the money side. Okay, obviously this requires a lot more understanding of financial markets and all this stuff. But the whole point of capital markets is actually taking other people's money, okay, and using that to do things with it. I learned a lot about this back when I worked as a broker dealer at a broker dealer in Miami, and so the thing is that whole game was people who don't know anything about anything, going out and raising money from other people and then taking that money and getting management fees off of that, off of them going out and investing into opportunities, whether it was in real estate or other private equity firms and funds, fund of funds types of opportunities and whatever. And so what it really comes down to in that regard is relational, right? Like who do you know and what do they think of you? And will they write you $1 million check where, by the way, the goal is for you to get that check to go and make money, right? So it's like, is it really that big of a deal for me to give you $1 million if you're telling me you're going to make me money off of it? Like, yeah, I'll give you $1 million. Make me some money, little kid. And that's how that game goes.
Totally. No, very well said. Creativity is one of the most important things in all of this. And also changing your relationship to how you see money and opportunity. And some of the books that I'm going to mention in this, that's really what they're working on is changing your lens of things. And because for prime example, where a lot of people, when they want a job, they want security. We're in an age now where that doesn't exist. And so you really want to be more risk on for yourself more than ever. I think I would have given the same advice before. You should always have done that, but now it's a necessity. So I see XRP Timster here saying, I'm trying to figure out what I'm good at other than working for someone else. That's a really important thing too, where I think a lot of people are looking for this security and working for someone else, but that's going to be more dangerous than working for yourself now, genuinely, in most circumstances. And I actually lived through this firsthand where I was employing three young kids, and I basically was like, you guys are going to get equity in this if you stick around and you help and you do this. And they didn't take the opportunity seriously because they've been trained that like a secure, higher paying job is what they want. So for me, they were incredibly lazy, some of them. And then they ended up getting a good job because they knew someone who got them a good job. And now they're doing well in the good job. But if I could ever talk to the guy again, I'd be like, did I get that guy? Did I get the guy who you're being in this opportunity? Right. So you also have to understand the true opportunity that you're entering. And so if you're starting something where you can actually get more equity in it or be more involved from the foundation, you can potentially get way higher returns too, because you are taking on more risk. But with the tools that are out there, that risk is becoming less and less significant because the market has changed and is becoming inherently more risky. And the tools allow you to move so much faster. So for XRP Timster, what I would say is start something on the side or even go offer to help someone for free on the side. Keith has had a bunch of people who came up to him and were like, hey, can I help you for free? And now they've built jobs for themselves, right? Go do that. Go find people that you would look up to, that you admire, and say, I want to learn, like, what are gaps in the place? Like, what can I do to help you do whatever you're doing better? and go start learning the skills and start seeing what it's like to make money from nothing, is what I would say.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
You're up next, right?
Yeah, man. I guess I'll go into my next book here. And this one right here is fantastic. I think right after, having the right mindset, right? Thinking about those kinds of things and how to shape your mind to be successful. I think after that, now that we've got cultivated what's in here, I think it's something that's really important as well to cultivate what's coming out of here. Okay. Like what's coming out of your mouth? What is the output into the world? And that can be through writing as well. And so this book, one of my favorites of all time, it's called Words That Work by Dr. Frank Lutz. And well, the subtitle is It's Not What You Say, It's What People Hear.
Mm.
And it's a really, really, really good read from a guy who worked as a political consultant, essentially, in the United States for actually both parties. And it's a really good read around what are the different things that you can say that actually get people to take action and to actually change behaviors, and what are the things that actually resonate with people. And one of the examples, and I'm going to paraphrase this a little bit, that he gives in the book is like, he went out and he was trying to figure out like how to talk about like welfare programs. And it was like this example of like, they went out and polled people, and it was like, if you tell people, or if you ask them, do they think that the government should be giving money to people? People were like, no. But then he was like, do you think that the government should assist people with their housing and living? Right. And people were like, yeah, we should do that. And it's not the full example, but the concept of just like how we phrase things, how we look at the things, right, and what that actually means to other people. Who are you speaking to is also really, really important, because when you walk into a room and you just start talking and talking and talking about things that might not be relevant, or that might resonate, or it might hit in the wrong way for specific people, then you're not fully taking advantage of the opportunities that you have. And sometimes when it comes to like for this book and in particular, it's like it could be one person that you're talking to that can completely change the entire trajectory of everything. And so you want to make sure that you know who you're talking to that's in the rooms that you're in. And there's so much more to take away from this book. And in fact, I'm going to try to actually find really quickly like the 10 major points that it tells you of how to think about how to communicate more effectively. So let me see real quick. Anything that comes to your mind immediately, Ben, on any of the things that I just said here?
So I've not read that, but a very similar book that I've read that I almost included in my list, but I didn't, was Influence by Robert Cialdini. I always butcher his last name, but very similar content, right? And so it talks about the impact of priming, of all these different little things that go such a long way in shifting thought, perspective, and beliefs and actions. And so I definitely recommend picking that book up. I've read it probably 3 or 4 times, and it's a great one, but I've talked about it a lot on the internet, so I didn't include it on my 5 list. You scrolling through?
Fair.
Find it?
Yeah. It's got a super long intro, but this whole entire book is worth reading.
Yeah. Even the intros, man. Usually the intros are so ass.
Yeah, see this guy, I mean, he's a writer, right? So this guy like actually knows how to write an intro to the book. And then like another thing that I also would say for this book in particular, it's like writing down all these words that you don't know. And this is kind of a major point of the book. It's like, don't use big words all the time. Because no one knows what you're talking about when you do that.
That's true.
But when you're reading a book and you don't know what a word means, I always circle it, I always highlight it, whatever, and then I try to make sure that I go back and actually figure out what that word means. It can really change the context of what you're reading and what you take away from it.
That's the benefit of Kindle, man, because you can just hold it down and it gives you the definition.
That's fire. That's fire. All right, so I'm going to go through 10 rules of successful communication in this book.
Go for it. Hit me.
Rule 1 is simplicity. Use small words. Okay. So big things here is it says, if you try to talk to, and for another thing about this book is it's like talking to the average person, right? Because like a lot of us, we're, might be intellectual or we like to study and stuff like this. And when we talk to people, a lot of the stuff that we're saying just goes right over their heads. And it makes the point of like, not only can the meaning of words sail over their head, people can also just misunderstand you. Okay. And like take what you're saying and it might mean something. Oh my God. Like, oh my God, what was that meme where this girl was like talking to Bobby Altoff or whatever? Do you know who I'm talking about? The little girl
The
who was like,
podcaster girl?
yeah, who was in bed with Drake and they
Mhm,
like did
mhm.
a podcast in the bed. And there was some like rapper that she was talking to and she was like, so how long have you been a musician? And this was a
Oh,
joke,
yes,
right?
I have seen that, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and she was like, "A magician?
yeah.
I ain't no magician," or whatever.
Mhm.
Now, that's all a big stunt, but the point is, right, that's not a big word, but that same concept of, like, if you're using big words or whatever, you could actually just end up offending someone 'cause you just they don't know what you mean. Um, so that's rule number 1 is use simple, short, small, easy words. Rule 2 is brevity, using short sentences as well, because, um it's all about just kind of trying to compress information. Sometimes it says sometimes 2 or 3 words are worth more than 1,000. The most memorable taglines in product advertising are usually not much more than fragments. Um,
'Cause if you like, why that's important in practice is because if you try to give people too much at one time, the moment that they become overwhelmed, they just stop listening completely.
Love it. And then Ben and Keith, could you post the book list? Thanks. From yeah. So we're gonna have that in our Substack.
Yes. So that'll
So
be live probably today or tomorrow.
yeah, yep. And memesandmarkets.com is where you'll be able to find that. Cool. So things like they're great or got milk. Okay, like super simple taglines and stuff that actually pack so much meaning in them. And this is in particular for, once again, this guy's a political commentator, so he's looking at branding as well as, um, politics, right? So when you're thinking about ways to come up with opportunities to kind of like create these sound bites or try to create a tagline or a motto, it's like you don't need to have some big long thing. Rule 3: credibility is as important as philosophy. So basically, what he goes through is how there's a bunch of political figures who will say a bunch of stuff, but then they get caught like not doing the things that they're saying. And then from there, it completely ruins everything that they would ever say from that point forward.
Totally.
So it says sometimes just the expectations of expectations can destroy a candidacy. So I think the point there is just that, like, yeah, like what you're saying, um, and what people expect of you based upon that is really important as well. So rule 4 is that consistency matters, which absolutely just tacks on to that last one as well. So let's see here. Rule number 5 is novelty. So offering something new. Essentially, all right. So I'm going to read this story real quick because it's actually really, really, really good. So novelty in action. So this is all about the O.J. Simpson case. So essentially, right, there was a football player in the United States who got accused of murdering his wife or something like that. I don't know exactly how it went down.
Wife and, boyfriend or lover.
Okay. Okay. And so his attorney, right, had to be an absolute killer because he got him out of the situation. Everybody knows that he kind of did it, right? And so he gives a little bit of an anecdote on this. So I'm going to try to read through this. The attorney, his name is Robert Shapiro, and he's more than just a lawyer to the rich and famous. He's best known for putting together the defense dream team that kept O.J. Simpson on the golf course rather than in jail. And his creative application of English is acknowledged in the legal profession. Shapiro's considerable linguistic skills were put to the test when he was called upon by actor Marlon Brando. He called upon Marlon Brando in 1990 to defend his son, Christian, who had admitted shooting his sister's fiance at point blank range, a potential first degree murder case punishable by death.
Brando did that?
His
Did I
son,
hear his son,
his
okay,
son.
sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
hear it
yeah.
correctly.
So Shapiro explains, the lawyer explains, after talking with Christian, which was Marlon Brando's son, and talking with Marlon And talking to the sister, it became clear to me that it was something more than just a direct and deliberate first degree murder. When I got into the case, it became clear to me that there was a legal theory, but that it would be very, very difficult to explain to lay people, especially in a 20-second soundbite on television or newspaper article. So rather than explain the different degrees of manslaughter that we have in California that would allow for a mitigation of this type of sentence, I wanted to come up with something that would clearly and unequivocally point to what our defense was. Our defense was twofold. First, that there was no intent by Christian Brando to commit a crime, and so therefore it was accidental and not murder, right, but manslaughter. Okay. Second, that the intent that's required is not specific intent, but rather a general intent. So that would fall under the guise of involuntary manslaughter as well. So he coined the phrase an accidental manslaughter. So he came up with this term, right? And each and every time somebody asked me to comment on the case, I said, we will show clearly that this was an accidental manslaughter. And that's what the newspapers printed. And to this day, when people talk about it, Christian Brando pled guilty to accidental manslaughter. The phrase does not exist in law. It came out of my mouth, and I repeated it hundreds of times over the course of months, and it stuck. One time use, one time need. So the point here was offering something new, and once again, going back again to rule number 4, which was that consistency matters. So, all right, I'm not going to do that for all of these. Rule 6 is sound and texture matter. So when you're trying to deliver a message, snap, crackle, and pop, right, is the example that it gives from Rice Krispies. Like trying to find other ways of contributing to the overall vibe of the message that you're trying to bring. And I know I'm talking a lot, guys, so just give me a second. So the thing it says is the rhythm of the language is in itself musical, even when there is no tune. Okay, so this was something around all of that kind of stuff. So Alka-Seltzers has plop, plop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is. And so the quicker, picker, upper by Bounty, like little things like that that add rhythm and stuff to language also make a really big deal. Rule 7, speak aspirationally. So it talks about how politicians are always like bragging on each other and talking down and this and that. And like, it doesn't work, basically, is what his conclusion is. You're much better off actually speaking aspirationally and digging into people's hopes, dreams. Rule 8 is to visualize. So trying to find ways to actually visualize the things that you're talking about. It talks about a tagline called grab life by the horns from Dodge. And one of the most powerful words in the English language is the word imagine. All right, rule 9 is to ask a question, getting people to think about things for themselves. And then rule number 10 is going to be providing context and explaining relevance. So anyways, this is an incredible book. I could go on and on about that, but I won't do that.
Can you repeat the name of it once more?
It's called Words That Work by Dr. Frank Lutz.
Nice. Love it. That's number 2 for Keith. Anything else to add on that one?
Nah, man.
Cool. So my next one is I cheated and I put 2 in 1. So it's because I think the takeaway from them is near identical. So I wanted to give you guys 2 options so that you could pick which one you want. So the first one is one that we've mentioned before, and it's a figure that we're going to cover in a far more in-depth episode coming soon on the topic of this book, which is called Propaganda. So this book is by Edward Bernays, who many refer to as the godfather of propaganda. And then the other book is called Trust Me, I'm Lying by Ryan Holiday. And so why I put them both together is because they essentially teach the exact same lesson, just with different speak and different examples. And why I gave both is because propaganda is quite old. So the language is very different from how we speak today. And so I know that pushes a lot of people off. I actually think this is probably the better read if you can sit through it. But naturally, there will be a lot of language where like no one speaks like that today. Whereas this is more recent day examples, and both of them show the power of deliberate media to getting outcomes. And so it can really wake you up to how everybody is trying to get something from the media that they're putting out. And when you understand the media business a little bit more, you can spot incentives a little bit more. And that allows you to be less propagandized, I would say, slightly than the average person. None of us are immune to it, but at least when you can call it out and you know what someone is doing, the effectiveness drops pretty significantly. So again, that's Edward Bernays' Propaganda, or if you want more of a recent spin on the same kind of concept, Trust Me, I'm Lying by Ryan Holiday. Core being media literacy and understanding what people are trying to do to you when they pop up on your screen.
Fantastic, man. I'm a huge fan of Ryan Holiday. Um,
That that book was one of his earlier ones when
wow.
he was working at American Apparel. Did you see the American Apparel doc?
No.
That shit was crazy. Their CEO was a bit of a
Oh
crazy
yeah.
dude.
Talk
And
about it a
so
little bit. Yeah. What was the story around that?
they what was that have been? Was that the 90s or 2000s? But it was a very big up and coming brand, and they usually just sell like blank apparel. But it really blew up in a very big way due to their marketing stunts and their approach to the whole business. And that led to like a culture and a lifestyle that was pretty crazy. And he definitely took advantage of the system that he had built, the owner of the company. And so since there's been I think it's all allegedly. I don't think he's actually been in trouble for any of this, but the doc doesn't paint him in the best light. And so Ryan Holiday was basically his growth hacker at the time. And so what I would also say from this is that although this is more recent, the examples that he gave, you still want to modernize what he said because he was talking in the world of blogs. So before YouTube was a big thing, blogs were like the go-to spot for distribution. And so you just want to find the modern day comparables to understand what's going on now because these things don't go away, they just change font.
Hmm. Print that out. No, but um, great stuff there. And I mean, Ben, from your perspective, being in the role of also someone in media, I think you obviously are very aware of the different ways that this is being used against us and how we can even use it as well to get messages across in
It's
the modern day.
it's one of the most important things on the planet because we talk about the power structures and almost all of the power structures are only maintained by like external belief from all of us, right? When we always say they is how we see the world. And so that was created through propaganda across the board. Even every decision that you think about, someone was paid to make you think that. If you even go to like the reverse of the food pyramid in like was it the 60s or 70s, that was done because they came off the gold standard. And so to create the perception that inflation wasn't going crazy for food prices, they made people think that the cheapest food was the best,
Wow.
right? So they're doing this shit all the time. And so it's very important to be aware of it. And that's why I always ask before I do anything, I'm like, who benefits from me doing this?
Hmm.
And typically you'll find that they worked with someone or they have someone internally and they've tried to create this thought.
Fascinating, man. Fascinating. In from these types of books, what do you think its impact has had on your in the way that you work and how you think and function?
What up? Welcome to the stream.
Yeah,
First
welcome,
live
welcome.
stream. Welcome. We're happy to have you. So I seek out books like this all the time, obviously because I was naturally drawn to this. And I was a really, really curious kid, but I think I was so curious because nothing made sense. Like like people would tell me something and I'd be like, your definition or your explanation is shit. Right? And like also understood that the adults that I was asking weren't privy to the information, but that also made me more curious. Why aren't you privy to this information? Right? Like you're literally telling your child or nephew, whatever, to do these things, and you don't even know why you do them in the first place? That just didn't add up to me. So then I became incredibly curious for why do we do the things that we do and why do we listen to the people that we listen to? And then you quickly find out that it's maintaining some sort of power structure. And so that's something that I think is really, really important, especially with the echo chambers that people are in with social media. My biggest goal from mentioning these books is to see how it's being used on you, right? So, like, also remember that people get far too literal with something. So, like, they'll zoom in and be like, okay, creativity needs to be considered here is what I'm trying to say because the modern day equivalence of distribution is now algorithmic based, right? So you also have to think about how many more tools do people now have in their propaganda tool belt, right? So all these things, and I really want people to try to go seek out content that you would never watch before, right? So I purposely watch podcasts and content from like every aisle, every like pocket of echo chamber, because it allows you to see where all of them are dumb. But when you're there the whole time, it's almost impossible to see. So I get whenever I come across someone who's radicalized, which is almost everyone on the planet, I totally sympathize with their situation. Because if you didn't work in social media like I did, like I was lucky, right, to understand the significance of this stuff and deliberately be forced to seek out conflicting information so that I could speak to every group of people. Almost no one is doing that, right? So everyone's in their echo chamber and they're certain that they're certain. That's incredibly dangerous.
No doubt about it. Um, I was listening, I think last year, to a podcast with Tom Bilyeu about all of this. With his podcast is Impact Theory,
Mhm.
and yeah, I mean, this kind of ties into something that I've been thinking about recently around like why have we been moving so much further into this uh, world where everything is sort of being tracked? Why is Palantir so important moving forward?
Mhm.
And this is like a little bit out there, but point being, we've got rising inequality and that leading to rising conflict internally amongst each other, right? And this turmoil and all of this kind of leading to the place where like there's a lot of pressure on the systems that we're living within. And at some point, like something's bound to happen. Ben, we were talking a little bit about this last night and stuff. Like when you get to where people are just like upset with their circumstances, they're going to start doing stuff. They're going to start getting violent. They're going to start trying to do whatever. I actually talked to an economist over the weekend as well. And he was talking about how, he was basically, his whole PhD that he did, one of the things that he went on was like, what is it that gets people to move out of neighborhoods when people start coming into them? So it's kind of like a race thing. Like he was like,
Mhm.
okay, why do white people leave neighborhoods when black people start coming in? And the question that he was trying to answer was not like, is it really just racism? Right. And he was like, well, the way to figure out whether or not that's the case is to figure out what are the options that people actually have. Because if people don't have the option to move, then what happens? And some of the things that he would find was that, okay, when people don't have the option to move, uh, they might start like doing things to their neighbors, right? Like they might be like, um, they might start harassing their neighbors essentially. But the point of all of that was to kind of highlight that wow, what was the point of all that? um that when you have systems like and the pressure starts to build up within them, like there's going to be reactions to those things, and it'll be very interesting to see how that actually ends up playing out in terms of like, well, my full point was when you look at these companies like Palantir, when you look at the state of the United States and this kind of push towards a more authoritarian kind of state, like maybe we get to the place to where like all of this surveillance and technology is in place to make sure that people kind of like just comply when things get down to uh, the dirty of whatever could be coming next. But anyways,
You perfectly segued my next book. Do you mind if I take
let's
this
do
spot?
it. Let's do
Okay,
it.
cool. Because like as you were saying that, I'm like, you basically just described this whole book. So I figured it makes sense to include this right now. It's another character that we've referred to a bunch of times on this podcast, and none of these things are by accident. They're always very deliberate because we feel they're very important. And that is Jeff Booth and his book, The Price of Tomorrow. So essentially, everything that Keith just described, Jeff breaks down and predicted the things that we're experiencing right now. I believe this was distributed in 2020. And to think that he was this accurate on this stuff is kind of scary. It's like, what kind of crystal ball does this guy have? He's also very involved with a lot of the emerging tech that's creating all this. So that gives him definitely an insider's advantage. But I strongly recommend picking this up. And it's going to explain how we got here, where we're going, and the tools that people are going to use against you. And it also explains the role that Bitcoin plays in all of it, or may end up playing in all of it. So I strongly recommend picking this book up. Where he's still someone we're going to eventually get on this podcast. He's just a very hard guy to get a hold of at this point because he only uses decentralized social media. He only uses Primal, which we talked about, and we had a whole episode on that. So definitely a hard guy to get a hold of, but somebody worth listening to. So once again, it's The Price of Tomorrow, and I can't think of a more timely book for you to understand the underlying mechanisms that led to the chaos you're seeing around you.
Fantastic. I actually have not gotten to read that book just yet. Um, but it sounds like an incredible read. And yeah, Jeff Booth and the thoughts he puts out into the world are absolutely top tier.
It's very approachable too. So like anyone watching this, you won't be too overwhelmed by reading it. Like there was not, I understand that Keith and I are in a position where we study this stuff a lot more than the average person, but I could have sent that book to almost anyone and felt comfortable that they would leave understanding, which is really important.
Love it, dude. Fantastic. I can move on to my next book.
Yeah, hit me with number 3.
All right. So this one is, oh man, which one do I want to do now? All right. So this one is a very different kind of book. I don't have it with me physically at the moment, but it is all about how we often separate um, science from spirituality and religion and things of that nature. And really, there's a lot of parallels that we can see when we look back through history. And what I mean by that is in Eastern mysticism, there's a lot of topics that are discussed that actually very much so explain things that weren't necessarily scientifically understood at the time, but then that science caught up to and started to describe as well, right? Something that was already said hundreds and thousands of years ago. So the book is actually called uh, the Tao of Physics, okay, and Tao being Tao, and it's by someone named Fritjof Capra. And the whole book is just breaking down the different parallels between Eastern mysticism and modern physics, and how there's so many different little things that have been said in the past around like the concept of like yin and yang, and kind of like breaking down how that actually is something that is like a scientific thing. Like for instance, this isn't exactly what's in the book, just trying to paint a picture. Um, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, kind of thing, right? But like that having been described and understood many years ago. So, anyways, I don't have the book on me, and I read it a very long time ago, but it totally changed the way that I look at my relationship with religion and how it can actually be used in a much more hmm, it's much more useful than uh, just looking at what can't be seen or whatever. Like there's a real reality to spirituality and what it means in the physical world that we live in.
Love it, man. Actually, I picked up that book when you mentioned it last a few episodes ago, so I have it sitting on my bedside table that I got to start on it. But there's 2 books in front of it, so I'm gonna get to it eventually.
Very cool.
But love that, man. Great addition, and that stuff matters a lot because a lot of people don't see the parallels and they don't know enough to understand that that's taking place too. But I want to help out our boy XRP Timster here. So specific question. I once have seen this YouTube video where a couple was speaking about how YouTube will pay big money if you just hold the phone sideways and speak to it for 20 minutes for something as simple as explaining your work and being genuine. Is that true? So the answer is always it can, right? Like there, if you do that and you convince people to watch your content, then of course it's just it pays for the amount of time spent on your content in terms of AdSense. So then the next thing here is I'm going to create content, but I was wondering if it's really just consistency. I know I need to just try it. So you already know. I can always like there's no point in asking questions about something that you can find out through action, because every sort of answer that you could possibly receive that would be the right answer is laden with nuance specific to you and your situation. So I could give you the perfect example, but depending on what you want to do, it might be the wrong advice. And I don't know that until you've started, right? Like when I look at all of Keith's channel and stuff, I'm able to give him feedback and like suggestions because he's done it. Until you've actually created the content, I can't give you specific advice, right? But I will literally help you here. If you go start posting content and you post, let's put a number fairly high. Let's say if you've posted 20 videos, after you've posted 20 videos, I will do a live channel breakdown telling you exactly how you can grow your channel.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. That's a really good piece of advice there. Because that's really all it comes down to is just having things to critique and learn and iterate on.
It's
Yeah.
and speed is the most important thing. I actually tweeted this the other day where I was like, the people who are willing to look dumb and move early will get paid crazy amounts of money to do what the followers will end up doing for free, right? And we've reached that point in social media. Everyone posts on social media now and used to roast me for doing it, and I built a whole career and businesses off of the very thing that they once made fun of me, that they're now doing for free, right? So don't repeat that same lesson over and over and over and over again, because then you're going to be stuck in the exact same situation.
100%, man. And I do think XRP Timster, that, yeah, you can make money by just tilting the phone sideways and speaking to it for 20 minutes.
Totally.
I do think so.
It's also understanding what the assignment is too, right? Because people will take that advice and then they'll go do it and not learn about why it's not working at first. And then they'll come back and complain to me, I did it 20 times, like you said, and it didn't work. It's like, did you change anything? Can you explain to me the things that you learned across every single video? Have you studied other YouTube videos? Almost every time someone doesn't have the situation that they want, it's a lack of exposure. Like they just haven't done it enough to know signal from noise. That's like almost every problem, dude. Whenever people come to me, I have sympathy for them or empathy, where I'm just like, you're just ignorant. Almost every problem is just a different variation of ignorance, even in my own life, right? Like if I have a problem, it's a lack of information.
That's real, man.
Do you have the next one or do you want me to go?
I think you should go.
Cool. So this one is one of my favorite books of all time. And it's a novel. So it's the first like fiction book. I figured I had to include at least one because I didn't think that you'd have any in there. So I was like, I'll put one in. It's called The Alchemist.
Okay.
So this is a book that I've read a bunch, and I think it can be a lot of people's segue into personal development. And it's really a story of like fate, spirituality, prioritization again too, and just like acting in accordance with the laws of the universe for the most part, and not trying to force things you can't force for the most part. And so I think a lot of people, they really struggle with that because they're obsessing over things they actually can't control instead of the things that they could, right? And so I think this book is very helpful for that. It's also a pretty easy read. It's well written. It is a novel too, so it's not as dense or heavy. And so if all the other books have intimidated you a ton, you may want to start here. The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I don't know how to pronounce the last name. Coelho.
Fantastic. Yeah, great read. And a big point here on the power of fiction. When it comes to reading nonfiction, like you said, you have this density of information. But what happens in your brain is very different because our brains are actually wired to understand through stories. And so when your nonfiction books don't necessarily tap into that, you actually end up losing a lot of the value of all of this information that you're taking in because you're not actually getting it in the way that your brain is designed to take information in. It's just being given to you in lists, in bites, and just do this and then this step and then this step and then this step. But like for things to really resonate and sink into your brain, especially over a longer period of time, the story aspect is actually something that's way, way, way more powerful for that.
Why do you think? Yeah, all the old books and stories that have survived, it's because they were stories, right? They were compelling stories that made people feel things. That's how they used to. Those were the first books, man. Were just oral stories, right? And they would say it in a way that was captivating because if they just tried to give you the information, it would get lost.
100%. Someone mentioned The Richest Man in Babylon in the chat.
Yeah.
Another one of those absolute forever classics. It's a story. And that's the most powerful way.
Totally.
For sure.
100%. Hit us with number 4, Keith.
Number 4 for me. All right. This one, we're getting super practical here. Speaking against myself. It is a storybook. It's called Market Mind Games by Denise Scholl. And this book actually is also a story, and it's very, very well done. And oh, so there's such a cool note in here too. Just buy used books, by the way, buy used books. Cause like I've had really cool instances where you get like nice little notes and like stuff from that, like that in it. It's super cool.
Where do you buy the used books from? Just Amazon or?
Amazon, I'll buy them used. Book Threads, I think is another big one. I'll buy them used. So cool. So anyways, Denise Scholl is, and we've talked about this on the pod, She is a coach for traders, like hedge fund traders, hundreds of millions of dollars of money being moved around. And she basically helps them tap into their psychology to help them make better decisions. And so she wrote a book basically telling the story about this guy who had a girlfriend and all the stuff going on in his family. And he realized that his father was like a big part of the reason why he didn't believe in himself and this and that. And it really breaks down the importance of, for instance, first off, recognizing that financial markets are financial markets and they're random and they do whatever they do. But as a trader, your ability to tap into what is going on inside of you is going to basically always be your edge. And so the biggest takeaway that I got from this book was the importance of looking at your emotions as data. And so this concept that when you feel a certain response to something, are you just going to respond to this feeling that you have, or are you going to take note of that feeling that you have, and from there be able to make decisions based upon that?
Mhm.
So, yeah, thrift books, by the way, that is what it's called, Shayla. That's what I meant. Um, so, anyways, that's pretty much the biggest thing that you get out of this book. She talks about the concept of mental capital and psychological leverage, and uh, she goes into market emotions, right? Like understanding where you're at in your own um, process and things like this. So I don't think this book is really just applicable to a trader or an investor. I think everything that's in this book is highly applicable to your life. When you start to recognize that you don't have to physically respond to the things that you're feeling, I think that becomes such a powerful way of living and going through your life. When people say mean things to you, are you just going to immediately respond to that? Or are you going to be able to take that information in and even feel how you feel about that? And then say, oh, now that I've actually understood what I feel about this, maybe there's something to what they're saying. Also, maybe this person is just trying to be hurtful and that's the only thing that they're trying to do. I'm not going to engage in that. I'm going to move on with my life.
Mhm.
So the ability to separate your actions from your emotions, I think is something that's super powerful. And as a trader and as an investor, that's the number one thing, because otherwise you're going to get information, you're going to feel all this stuff, and you're going to make decisions based upon your emotions, and that's never going to end well.
Totally, man, and social media has made us all very reactionary, I would say even more than normal, and so you're fighting a lot of that, and if you can learn to gain a little bit more control over all that stuff, it puts you in pretty elite company to decide how you wanna live, and I'll also say while you're developing that skill, I think meditation can be helpful in that, being aware and being present, but also don't beat yourself up when you occasionally do react and respond because
Mhm.
you're a human, it's gonna happen from time to time, just make it a priority to not do that often or try to avoid it as much as you can.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say on this book is the practice that I actually took away from the book was writing down. Uh, so in the training day, I try to stay off my phone, and the first thing I'll do is I'll take to pen and write down first off if I have any dreams, okay, that are messing with me or that were impactful to me. I'm going to write down like what was that about, and feel any of the emotions that I'm feeling from that, and also just feel the emotions that I'm feeling as I'm waking up into the day. What is going on in my mind and why might it actually be happening that way?
Do you do that every day?
I honestly, over the past, since I started this YouTube channel, this has not been a part of my practice,
Got it.
but it was for at least another 6 months as well. And the goal of this is to, as I'm coming to the trading day, really understanding where I'm at emotionally. Because what happens is we have all these things that come into our mind. As a trader, what happens is you have a loss, you have a streak of losses, and that's messing with you. You're like, am I capable of this? Am I
Mhm.
doing the right things? Um, and essentially, you need to know that that's what's going on in your head because it could lead you to pressing the button at a time when you should not. Right? When I say pressing the button, hitting buy or sell.
Mhm.
And a lot of the times as a trader, depending upon how you trade, whatever, I meet people that trade every freaking microsecond. Like there's going to be days where you just don't trade. And if you don't have the ability to come to the market, look at what's happening and not press the button, then you're playing at a very, very disadvantaged space.
Mhm.
So, anyways, being able to see like what's the anxiety around the situation that you're in, is that
Yeah.
influencing the way that you're acting? And so, writing things down, final point,
Yeah.
is We talk about this all the time. When you write things down, it activates your prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for logic and decision making. And then you're deactivating your amygdala, which is responsible for your fear and anxiety responses. So when you're able to write things down, not only are you processing the actual subconscious of things that are happening in your mind, but you're also actually changing the chemicals that are in your brain and how that can allow you to make better decisions. Okay.
No, you're good, man. Always keep going as long as you want. I love when you talk about this stuff because it's always not what gets talked about online because it's the boring shit. It's the hard stuff, right? And it's the stuff that actually matters. What I've learned over my time of entrepreneurship and personal development that started pretty aggressively at like 18 was that the best advice is always the most boring or the most obvious, right? It's just that people think it's too obvious that if it was that obvious that everyone would do it. It's just about believing the fact that it can actually bear fruits, and I think that's something that's really, really big, so I love when you talk about that stuff. Joshua has a point here that I want to touch on. Have you guys read Think and Grow Rich? Yeah, so Andrew already helped us out in the chat by saying that was the first one mentioned. Reality Transurfing is a book that I've read twice, and then listened to another time, and it's great. It's long, it's really, really long, so I strongly recommend reading it, but I didn't include it in this list because of the sheer length of it. I'll put it in my longer list that we'll have on Substack once our domain gets all linked up. But yeah, that's it. Do you have anything else you want to add on that one, Keith?
No, and the Kabbalion as well.
I've not even heard of that.
Yeah, it's like the hermetic principles. Essentially, it's where it all comes from.
Got it.
Great, 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 great thing to have under your belt as well. I agree.
Cool. Sweet. Am I up or
I think
what's
it's you, man.
Okay, cool. So this one, another book that I've mentioned on the show, but when you come to the point to realize that most of our problems have to do with money and the financial system, then your life gets dictated by your relationship to money. And that also allows you to understand why other people do what they do because they're also being influenced by money. And so the book is The Psychology of Money. And it's a truly fascinating thing because if you know anything about the people in your life and the life that they've had coming to the point where they are today, you see why they do so many things. It really opened my eyes up to like one person in particular where he's an entrepreneur like I am too. But because of our differences and how we grew up, we even approach our business like radically different. Also our distribution of capital radically different. Where if you're not aware of that, you may not even realize that your childhood and your childhood financial situation is purely steering the car. And there are times when that may be advantageous, but that also may be to your detriment. And to like him, I think that he would probably even agree that his risk aversion has slowed progress in his business a fair amount because of the upbringing that he had, right? So it's not to say that any approach to money is the best. I think understanding that there are different ones and you may have biases that you're not even aware of is really the key takeaway. So I strongly recommend reading that book, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, I think is how you pronounce it. Would love to get him on the pod at some point too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Uh, that for everyone here who, if you haven't read that book, it's by far the easiest read that we've mentioned, and probably for the money stuff, the most impactful that you can get in such a short period of time.
Yeah, it's
Um,
pretty light.
it's super light. I read it again this year, and I was like, oh, it's over already. But it's really good, and there's a lot of different things that. So basically, my favorite thing is in the intro of the book. It's like we always think about finance as this thing of like math and science, but really it's like art and psychology.
Mhm.
It's not so much like calculate the number. It's like, well, what are the things that actually matter to you, and how are you moving in relation to those things with your money? From personal finance perspective, right? Corporate finance is much more math and science, right? But for you as an individual, it's not always about maximizing profit. For instance, it might be about maximizing enjoyment of your life, and just being okay with that, recognizing that that's actually what you value, and not having the cognitive dissonance around those things.
It allows you to become conscious in an area where most are unconscious.
Expand on that.
Well, everyone's being driven by money, right? Even the really rich people, I would say, are still being driven by money. As we've talked about before, money has become our modern day religion, right? And so if you don't understand that your relationship to it is malleable or has already been shaped before, then you are purely running on subconscious. Like, you have no control over your situation until you wake up to that fact.
Very real. Very real. Yeah. Yeah. It's always interesting. People who, I've I talk about finance a lot in my everyday life or
Mhm.
whatever. And people are like, oh, I don't care about money. Like money doesn't matter to me. It's
It's all
like,
they do. What do you mean?
yeah, it's like usually that's coming from someone who has a lot of money, but they don't know that. They don't
Mm,
think about it. You know what I mean? And it's just like, okay, well, the reason I talk about and think about these things so often is just because, well, uh, I can recognize how much of an impact it really has on the world and the way that it's shaped. And so, whether or not you care about it or want to think about it, it's there. And it's how you get all the things that you need today.
mhm.
But whatever.
Maybe we'll all be living on Bitcoin here pretty soon, and that'll change things up. Who knows? But you got one more for me, right, Keith?
Yep. This is my final. And this one right here is a very controversial pick. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm ready to hear all of the clapback in the comments and in the chat here. And it's a book that's all about humanity and how it evolved over time based upon this person's uh,
I think
research.
I
All
think I
right.
know what the book is.
Guess?
Well, I don't want to be wrong and look like an idiot, but
That's all. Yeah, you need to guess and look wrong like an idiot. Let's go.
is it Sapiens? Cool.
Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. So you don't look like an idiot. You look like a genius, man. That's the
Let's
that's
not
the
get carried away.
risk to reward here. um. So yeah, Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. It's a beautiful book. It breaks down in the beginning of the book, like basically what created the Homo sapien versus the other forms of humans that we had before. And my favorite part of this book, it's a really good book. It's long and it looks boring, but it's not. It's actually not. It's actually very, very, very interesting the whole way through. And so the beginning of it is like, what is it that actually makes the Homo sapien a Homo sapien? The answer to this is essentially our ability to tell stories to one another. Um, and through what he uses the word myths. Okay,
Mm.
so this ability to recount something that happened in the past, because when you're in the jungle, when you're in uh, a primitive form of humanity, like there is no past. Okay, there is only what is happening now. But what evolved for us as humans was our ability to talk about things that were not occurring, that technically weren't real, right? Um, and so the ability to tell those stories is what allowed us to band together in groups that were larger than like 150. 150 is around where things start to get shaky and where you'll start to get fighting and people will like basically they'll create new bands, new groups, and so on.
That
But
one
mhm,
point that I wanted to mention is it relates to the thought that I had last night was it feels like the push for us all to live in big cities was very much like a propaganda move. Because if you think back through the media, how much is New York City celebrated in like every movie? It's a
for
very
sure.
unnatural way of life, but it's celebrated by so many people who like basically if you have like all these characteristics and they're almost any characteristic, they're like, oh, you should go and chase your dreams in New York City. I feel like it's a very unnatural way of living. Sorry, I was thinking about that last night, which is why I butt in. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm interested in what would be the benefit to that other than I mean, because for the person, the benefit is obviously to have economic opportunity.
Mhm.
So, but what would be the benefit of someone who wanted to create that message and push that message?
Maybe they thought like if you're running this whole entire system and you find that in the technological age you need people in an office, you sell them on the dream that the office is the place to be.
Fair. All right, I'll move on. The 150 people per tribe, right, is essentially what we had until we were able to come up with these stories that allowed us to say there's a reason for us to basically be united. Okay, so this came in the form of religion, was one of the first ones, and then it came in the form of state. Okay, so your state, literally your country, as well as like the thing that bands us together in a group of larger than 150, and now today, right, millions and millions and millions of people. And then it also talks about this concept of money, right? And that being another thing that kind of bands us together through these common stories that we can tell to each other around what value means, or uh, what anything means to one another in relation to one another. And when you really think about it, right? So you've got religion that bands together probably a lot of people larger than nations, right? You've got, Islam, Christianity, that spans nations. So, and then you have the nations themselves, China being 1 point whatever plus billion people, India also up there in
Allegedly.
the billion plus people. Yeah, we don't know. Uh, um, uh, and then you have money itself. And really, when you think about it, I mean, we all kind of live under this premise of money being this system that matters and that is important and that governs our lives. So it's a really, really, really powerful read around like what are the things that actually make us human, and how has that kind of been used for and against us through time. Um, it's fascinating.
That's awesome. Crypto Clark here has a comment saying, I think the word we're looking for, guys, is control. And I think that kind of does also, because if everyone's really spread out, they're a lot harder to control, because it's a lot more difficult for me to guarantee a message hits them, right? If people are in one space, it becomes a lot easier for me to guarantee they see something, right? So that's pretty powerful, especially when there wasn't phones. Like now it's less of an issue because I can get you wherever you are. But at the time, to shift mass public thought, getting them together is far more convenient.
That's a really good point. And New York City is probably the perfect example of that, right? Like Times Square, messages everywhere.
So anything else to add on that book?
Nah, man, I'll leave it there.
Tight, man. So that's our list of 10 plus 1. I cheated. But we're going to have a more in-depth list, probably about 10 each, maybe even a little more, on our Substack that will be coming out probably tomorrow. We're waiting on the domain to get configured. So once that's done, Keith and I will write it up, and then we'll have that as our first post. So you can expect to see that. It'll just be at memesandmarkets.com. We'll also add it to the description box of this and also every episode. So it'll be easy for you guys to access. And we'll also make it the pinned comment for this episode once it's live too, so you can easily access it. But where do you want to go now, Keith?
I mean, I think we could open it up to the chat. What do you think?
Sure. Yeah, we dropped a lot on you guys in terms of different books and theories and all that stuff. We'd love to hear what you guys have to. No women authors, none. Don't make this a sex thing. That's not what this is. If you want to give me some female authors, I will go read them. It's not about that.
Interesting. I certainly wouldn't have thought about it. I mean, if I really look at my library, this is a good point. I think a lot of these books are written by men.
I have female books too.
Yeah, most of my books are written by men. I think that's probably a function of let me stop. Non-fiction versus fiction, for one. That's one thing that's skewed in my library. Okay. I don't know if that's gonna change anything. To be fair, like the one that I know is written by a female author is a fiction book. What other reasons could there be for that? I mean,
Societal too, for sure.
a lot of businessy stuff that I'm reading.
Yeah.
Are there a lot of women writing about business stuff?
Way less, for sure.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Same thing for finance. Actually, what are we talking about? Denise Scholl is a female author
You wait, is that
on
one of the
Market Mind Games.
So there, you did get one.
Denise Scholl is yeah, she's a female and she's awesome.
Yeah, 100%, whatever.
See,
Go ahead.
comments, right? Things people say can come in and completely just make you neglect the facts.
But people are also like looking for that, right? Like I bet you that person thinks about that all the time.
Yeah.
Right. So then you're like, you're looking for it. Be like, I want to say this. Right here. So thoughts on audiobook versus paper book consumption. I'm a big audiobook guy because I'm very strapped for time and I can listen to books on walks, but reading it is going to be a superior experience. I find that for my brain, I like doing both at the same time when possible. So I'll have the physical book in front of me and be listening to it simultaneously. But I'd love to hear how Keith sees different forms of consumption.
I've never listened to an audiobook from beginning to finish. It's just for me, it just doesn't work. Um, I mean, I say that, but like, yeah, I've done that on YouTube. Um, I just also know that whenever I'm doing that, I'm not actually paying attention. You know, like I'm doing something else, whether it's exercise or whatever. So for me, it just doesn't work.
Got it. That makes sense.
But
Uh,
then someone else asked a question. When do you even find the time to read these books? And Ben, I have to ask you because I actually have not read a book in the past 6 months that I've started my
Really?
YouTube channel.
I read before I fall asleep most nights. So that's the time. And I think when I was in university, that's probably when I read my most or read the most. That's just because I saw that my teachings were horseshit, like my university books. So I didn't read those. Instead, I read books for myself. It's really where I started accumulating books. And I also adopted a policy in university, which I'm aware that not everyone can do this, but I found a way to make it work where I had like an unlimited books budget. Where if there's ever a book that I wanted, I would always try to find its cheapest source, buying used or whatever. But I didn't think about it. I just bought it. And that served me pretty well. There's a lot of books that I've yet to read that I've purchased, of course, but I do love having them around. And I don't know, it just makes me feel more inspired to read as well. And I also like this is a super weird thing, but when I pick my next book, I'll like walk to my bookcase and let the book pick me.
Ooh, that's
Super
hard.
strange. Yeah, I'll literally be like, "What do I feel like reading?" I don't even ask questions, um, and that's it. Love Keith Goat. Other dudes sexualized the question. Typical YouTube man. That's the irony of that response. I can't even begin to touch. Sure, Storm. I hope you're awesome. I love Keith too.
Yeah, I think he was saying the commenter, right? Like the commenter did that.
Other dude. No, I think that's the same person who said the no woman authors. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Well, um,
That's what I'm saying. They
I don't
sexualized it.
understand.
What are you talking about? Whatever.
Well, whatever. Um, just trying to read some of these comments, you know what we got, but so for me, yeah, reading books right now has been really difficult. Um, I'm actually very upset about it because this year I was going super hard on reading books, and it's like I feel like until I find my proper groove of what my schedule looks like, I'm out of the game for a little bit.
That's okay. Life comes at you in seasons. I'm sure there'll be times when you can slow down and read a bunch too. Ain says, "Do you guys read one book at a time or concurrent? It's like bouncing between multiple books." I used to be a lot more one at a time. Now I bounce around a fair amount.
Yeah, I this year was bouncing around. That's how I was, I think, able to get through so many, as I would read usually 2 books at a time at least, because sometimes stuff gets boring for one, and sometimes there's just multiple things that I wanna read about at the same time, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's it. I think a lot of people, they end up having a really bad relationship with books because they keep it so rigid. It's like work. So then, of course, you're not gonna like it. You're attaching it to a lot of other things that you don't have the best relationship with.
Love that. That's super real.
So this is an important thing right here. So books now have outdated info compared to the latest online resources. That's if you're looking for like tactical stuff, right? So if you're trying to look a book on online marketing from 10 years ago, obviously that's useless. Almost every book that we mentioned, the lessons are fairly timeless.
Yeah, yeah, and it sucks because there's a balance there with, like, I read a book earlier this year called Genome by Matt Ridley, and it was written in, like, 1999, and it's about, like, the human genome, which at that time they had, like, just, pieced together the full human genome.
Mhm.
So a lot of that information in that book is probably outdated, but did
Yeah.
that mean that I didn't learn anything from it, or that I didn't, like, learn how geneticists even look at the human genome? Like, I mean, obviously, I did learn a ton of stuff from that too.
Totally.
Oh. you
Is
know.
one book a month? Sorry, you got a point?
Well, and I
Go
was
ahead.
also going to say that like that can also tell you so much more of the context around what has happened as things have evolved. So anyways, yeah.
No, great point. And that's really cool too, right? Is even if the information is no longer timely, you can see how they thought at the time, how they approach things. There's always lessons there. And then Jamin says, "Is one book a month a good balance or too ambitious?" I certainly wouldn't say that's too ambitious. If you're even reading like 20, 30 minutes a day, you can get through more than a book a month for sure.
My man Jamin in the chat. One book a month. I think that's fantastic if you're able to do that.
I think that's possible. No,
Yeah, I don't. It also depends on the books. Like, it's also
true.
really hard to do this. Like, I read a book called Titan this year, uh, by Ron Chernow. It's all about John D. Rockefeller. It took me, mind you, I'm reading a book a week, 1 to 2 books a week at that time. But that book took me like a month to finish, bro. It's 700 pages long. Like,
Yes.
you
So
know.
it definitely matters which book it is that you're referring to. But a lot of the ones that I mentioned, you could probably get through in a week.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and yeah, just just read stuff that you actually want to read. Like
That's
when you
important.
just want to read it, then
Yeah.
you read it. You know.
And if you travel or you commute to work, obviously, if you're driving, you can't read while you're doing that, but finding different ways to get it in, and if you can only really start with audiobooks, maybe that's a good way in
I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about somebody reading like like
while they're
hustle
driving.
culture. Like, yeah.
I've seen when I was in Playa del Carmen 2 or 3 years ago, I was at a steakhouse, and it was absurdly loud, and there was this dude just sitting there reading a book in the loudest restaurant I've ever been in. It was so awesome. I'm like, "How are you retaining any of this?" But, it looked cool. How do you differentiate the thoughts of the book you are reading from your own thoughts? I've never really even had that concern. Have you, Keith?
I mean, I'm trying to really get the question. Like for me, I always, if once again, like when you're reading stuff you actually want to read, it's like I'm gonna read something. I'm like, like I'll stop on the page. I'm not reading to read the whole thing in an hour. I'm like, let me think about what was just said there. Like, do I believe in that? Does that make sense? What might be some alternative thoughts to that? And I'll write some stuff in the margin. So I don't know if that's what you're saying. Like, are you separating thinking versus reading?
Mhm.
Is kind of what I'm thinking the question is. And I try my best to do that for sure.
So then, I am D. Flamont said that's 12 books a year. That's great considering our circumstances. Yeah, I think that's a very good goal. I think, and it also make it depending on how long books are. You may need a little bit more time for one versus the other, all that good stuff. Do you guys ever read The Greatest Salesman in the World by O.G. Mandino? I've never read that book.
I haven't. I haven't. I haven't. Another comment was Richest Man in Babylon is a good one. Yeah, I've seen you guys both recommend that kid and Carl. Um, and he said Coach JV on Coach JV on YouTube got me to read it. He references it a lot. You guys should get him on the show. Yeah, I actually had Abs from his show, Good Evening Crypto. He reached out to me recently. I asked him to come on the show. I don't know if he's gonna respond. So if you guys, if you got a
Spam them.
relationship with Abs, spam him in the chats over there and tell him that I wanted him to come on Memes and Markets. And then same obviously for Coach JV. Coach JV would be awesome to have on as well.
That kid says, "Do you guys take notes as you read to retain information? If not, how do you retain all the info?" Go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, I do. I take notes in the margin, and then I also have a Google Doc or Google Drive where I keep notes of all the stuff that I'm learning from the book. I usually will do that after I've finished the book. Is like go through all the notes that I wrote in the margin and try to add what I can to my Google Drive.
I usually, when I start a book, I'll create a new note in my phone and I'll just leave dot jots, like key points and takeaways. It's also what I'll do when I'm listening to books too. So I'll go for a walk, I'll start a new book, and then I'll just have that note there where I'll add some notes. IMD Flamont says there was a guy walking in the mall while reading. I just had to commend him. Yeah, that's pretty damn impressive.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. I love when a reader will
Find a
reach
way.
out to a reader.
Yeah. Psycho-Cybernetics, that's a book that I've started. I have not finished it. I've only gotten a few chapters into it, and then life got in the way, but it's one that I've heard a lot of good things about.
I have that book in Spanish because I thought that I was good enough to read it in Spanish,
Why
and
would you? Why'd you
I have
pick
not
Spanish?
opened it.
Did you do that on purpose?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But
You,
it's way, way too advanced for me, I'm sure.
are you that fluent in Spanish?
Not to read Psycho Cybernetics, no.
Okay. You say, damn, that's impressive. Because reading that'd be hard. But yeah, that would be really, really difficult. Yes, I started with my with 3T Academy.
So that's the Coach JV guy, 3-2 Warrior Academy. They're a big brand and big in the XRP space, just so you know, Ben.
Got it. XRP Army, man. We need Versant. Yeah, that guy's brought up a lot from people. Did you say you
Yeah.
already reached out to him?
Oh no, I haven't actually reached out to him. I think you did already, actually, though. I think you emailed him or something.
Yeah, I think I did. But Versant, is that his YouTube channel?
Yeah, it's the Black Swan Capitalist.
Yeah, okay. You've talked about him a lot.
Yep.
Yeah, we can try to reach out to him again, but it's hard to get through to people who get a lot of emails.
Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink is good as well. Yeah, Jocko Willink is awesome. I listen to a lot of his podcasts, and I know he's written some books. But I haven't read any of them, but I imagine his books are fantastic. And he's a former Navy SEAL.
Definitely.
By the way.
Mindset, discipline.
Let me do a couple of news/memes real quick.
Go for it, buddy.
So for Gen Zers, work is now more depressing than unemployment, per New York Times. And we had the perfect meme in response right under it, where it says, when I'm at work and someone asks me to do my job. And then Gen Z grew up in a world where they know the 9 to 5 is a big scam. And then it has never been more important to create a brand for yourself, whether on social media or via entrepreneurship. Don't wait, starting out. The landscape is changing very quickly. Wow. Very interesting comments on that. So work is now more depressing than unemployment. Ben, what are your thoughts on that?
I see why they would think that, because it seems like, whether it's real or whether it's propaganda, only time will tell. It seems like there's not really a point, because when our generation, or even earlier than our generation, was starting, it was for progression, right? It was for something. Now, if it's impossible to start, and even if you do get started, you can't get off the ground, what's the point? And I'm trying to play the role of their thought process, which I can definitely sympathize with, because every time you go on social media, man, you're basically told how the world is screwed and that you were born into like the worst time in the last 100 years. So I can't really fault them for thinking like that. People have made money to convince them that that's the truth, right? And that things can be horrible, and you can also make it work for you too, right? It's really important to not fully buy into all the propaganda. Everyone's going to have their own situation, and there's always people winning, even when most are losing. So if you get too wrapped up into the frequency of this is all going down, we're all screwed, you're going to seek out things that confirm that.
Yeah, and Carl said, makes sense. Work is supposed to help you get ahead.
Yeah.
Right. But it
That's
really
not a
doesn't
thing anymore. It's to survive. I was actually talking about this with my girlfriend last night, where I was like, we both make, with the money that both of us were bringing in over like the past few years, we should be living very good lives. And we live like very mid lives, right? Like if I was making this amount of money, even relatively speaking, 30 or 40 years ago, I'd be balling out. But with the cost of everything, we don't even live that much better than most people, which is crazy with how much I work and how much she works. So I totally get why people are so sad. Like it totally makes sense to me. And I think that the money is almost the entire problem, right? So Carl here says, it's mathematically impossible to be middle class. Yeah, you're either rich or you're poor, dude. I think everyone now realizes that.
Yeah, it's very tough situation there. A lot of people haven't necessarily woken up to that reality, but that's where we're living for sure.
Yeah, that's also why I think there might be an event that wakes a lot of people up. But to speak to Rodrigo, we did mention, I had one crypto esque book, which was The Price of Tomorrow. It's only mentioned a bit in it. It's more tech focused and humans focused, but it does talk about Bitcoin. So that's my only really crypto focused book in the list that I gave.
And then uh, Allende Allende Castro said, "Have y'all ever read any books from someone you thought
Yes, great
disagree
comment.
with or disagree about the premise idea?"
All the time. I'll even try to seek that out. I'll even try to deliberately read books from, like, every area, especially people I disagree with, or especially the people that everyone hates. I more so wanna understand why that happened, 'cause a lot of times, like, you don't get the full picture consuming modern day media, right? And so
Mhm.
you may wanna go back to how people were being discussed at the specific time, how they thought at the time, how they saw the world, 'cause it's very easy to change reality when you're looking at it from the past, like, from the future, sorry, right? And you're distributing the story, so and you weren't there. So, yeah, I do that all the time. How about you, Keith?
Very nice. Yeah, I mean, I do my best to do that. I think I also don't have many opinions. So, like,
Yeah.
I'm always kind of coming to stuff with, like, okay, what is being said here? Right. Um, so yeah, I mean, maybe that other people disagree with, because the whole point is to get new perspective. So I
Totally.
don't know. Yeah, I don't even really think about it like that. But I do have one clear example of that. I think I talked about it on the pod. 2016, I picked up a book called The Art of the Deal
Mhm,
by Donald J. Trump,
mhm,
because everybody's hating the guy at the time. I'm like, well, this guy knows something about something. So let me read this book, sit down and see what the heck's going on and what can I take away from it.
mhm.
To be honest, The Art of the Deal is not really that great of a book.
I'm sure he didn't even write it.
In fact, see, it's like it's really just like it's actually kind of funny. It's very much so Trump in the
Yeah?
sense of like um he's just talking about himself. Like the whole book is just him telling the story of how he basically
Maybe he did then.
did deals. Yeah, yeah. Maybe he did take the time to write
Maybe he
this
didn't have a ghostwriter then.
um, so anyways, the only thing that you really get away from that book is like how this dude thinks about deals. And that's actually pretty powerful. So whether or not you like him, you hate him, it's like you see how he's able to, as just basically a no one in a lot of ways, just bully the heck out of people
No
and
one.
get all the deals and the stuff that well, this is from 80s Trump, 70s Trump, you know what I'm
Yeah, but
saying? Like
his
when he
family was already pretty.
his his dad was a real estate developer, but like they weren't what he is. You know what I'm saying? But he was able to bully the heck out of people to get the deals that he wanted. When I say no one, you got to think the rooms that he's in at that time. He's in the room with like like the richest families in the world, and they're just like they're a real estate developer. Don't get me wrong, but they're
Mhm.
not the Hiltons.
His
You know
family
what I'm
wasn't like
saying?
that in terms of prestige, maybe not in terms of economic, but wasn't his uncle, like, pretty high up in the FBI and stuff?
Yeah, see, I don't know all of that. I'm giving this information from where I'm reading from that
Well,
book,
he got a small
right?
loan of $1,000,000, right? So, it's like, that's normal.
And like, but that's kind of the point, right? Because in those kinds of circles,
That is
that's
a small
nothing.
loan. Yeah, 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 yeah. You're right. Yeah, relatively speaking, but at the time, like, that's a massive amount of money given the buying power of that, but, yeah, it's definitely I think the core lesson is that you should try to learn from everyone, and I think if there's someone whose name gets brought up, like, let's say it's Trump, and then you instantly stop listening, that's been weaponized against you, and so if you think you're, like, this elitist person because you dislike Trump, you're the idiot, because now you're ignoring, like, half of the conversation.
Facts.
And so even if you, like, disagree with 99% of what someone says, you're missing that 1% that could have been the unlock.
100%. And it's like, when someone has that much influence, it's like, okay, well, clearly people are listening to this person. What is this person saying? Why is it resonating? That was the big thing I think from the past presidential election that everyone had to step back and say. It was like, You absolutely hate this guy, and he just won an election.
Mhm.
Getting 50+% of the United States population to vote for him, and he's just the most evil person ever. So we have to take something away from that.
Totally.
you know,
Yeah, there's always lessons everywhere, even if you hate it, right? Like, or hate the person. Like, I think hate in general is not very useful for you. But, yeah, that's it. The point is there anything any other good comments here?
Carl was saying some stuff here. He's like, he works for a living. He ain't rich.
I guess that's one way.
I
Um,
like it because like that's the stuff that I'm talking about. Like these people that he's dealing with are like the grandkids of these people that have built these massive empires. Where like yeah, like Trump's out here wheeling and dealing and like trying to like raise money and this and that. Like you know what I'm saying? Like yeah, like he's able to do that and he's in those circles, but he's not the Hiltons saying like, do this,
Yeah.
like
I don't know enough about the distribution of wealth in your country to know that at the different times. So you would know that better than me.
but when they have trillions and you only have a few billion, you're poor. Yeah, like you know what I'm saying. Like he grew up privileged as heck.
Yeah.
But he wasn't what he is now.
But I guess in terms of the circles that he was trying to get into, he was not considered rich.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't even know what a normal existence would be like because he's never really seen that. So to him, he's like, right?
He's seen it, but only from the outside. There's a story in this book. This is crazy, of how, like, so his dad, like, they managed like Section 8 apartments. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
What
that
is
was the
Section
kind
8?
of stuff. Oh, sorry. It's like government housing.
Got it.
So, like, super rundown buildings and like stuff like that, and
Not glamorous.
not glamorous, not super profitable types of businesses unless you have it at scale. And so, anyways, there was this example, and maybe this wasn't a Section 8 apartment, but whatever. There was this apartment that they were managing, and there was just like a bunch of um so New York had rent controls and they didn't agree with this. They were trying to like fight against it, whatever. But it was the case. So what did they do? They couldn't raise the rents on people that were already in the building, right? Only if someone new comes in. And so what did they do? They started to give people, homeless people, and he tells us in the book, they would put homeless people in the building until people started to move out of the building because of the fact that it was just like overrun by homeless people. And then once they, overran the building with homeless people because they were giving these homeless people a place to stay, then now they can get all these people out and raise the rents on the building and make it more profitable. And I'm just sitting here like, dude, what on earth? Like this guy's basically um like a mobster. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the way that they would move.
And it was
It's like,
necessary.
yeah, like how do they skirt the laws and get to what it is that they need to do? I don't remember why I started mentioning all of that, but just like that's the vibes of the stuff that they were up to. And that's how a part of how he thinks, right? Like how do I get what I want?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely a polarizing figure for sure. Game of Thrones is real. There are blood to be allowed among the elites. No muggles. I thought muggles was Harry Potter. Is muggles also in Game of Thrones?
Oh no, I'm way out of the loop on that kind of stuff. There was a couple other news things that I wanted to push. Oh yeah, so we just got this consumer sentiment read. I'm putting out a video on this tomorrow.
They're
That was
worse than history, right?
yeah, the worst current economic conditions index in history. So worse in 2008, worse in 2022. And one of the things that I actually noticed about this that I asked, I guess, ChatGPT about was that it feels like it always gets lower, right? Like there's always a new low being put in on consumer sentiment rather than always necessarily a new high.
But that's because of the media mechanism, right?
Well, I think that's one of the answers is like, one of the things that ChatGPT said was like, maybe people are always doing better. And so their baseline is higher.
That's a good point too.
So,
Like not
yeah,
better. But when you say that, people are instantly like, "I'm suffering like crazy." It's like, yes, we understand. But like across the board, the floor is a lot higher
right,
in terms
right.
of quality of life, access to things, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, are there people who have a horrible situation? Yes. But like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's also tough to say it that way too. It's like because it's not like this goes back to, you know, the 1600s. This only goes back to I think like the 70s, this consumer index. So have things been like has the floor been rising for people since the 70s? Like
It depends on your benchmarks,
I
right?
don't know. Yeah.
If you're talking like access to information, it's like orders of magnitude better. So it really depends what you're banking on. Obviously, when people go to the affordability of things, that's a massive crisis and a big problem. But yeah, it really depends on your perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I could find that chat because it was a very interesting sort of um answer that it was giving around that. But anyways, yeah, one other point here. Oh, silver, guys. Silver going
Still
crazy.
cooking.
Going crazy. And gold, really. Gold and silver going crazy.
I think there'll be a Bitcoin move here soon.
We are witnessing one of the most historic runs in precious metals ever. Gold is also about to hit levels of like the highest yearly gain since somewhere in the 70s. Living through some crazy times. I also saw this morning that there was some U.S. announcement that the tariffs on Chinese semiconductors will be at 0% until 2027. I don't know, but if so, that's going to be crazy.
What impact do you think that would have on everything?
The original thing that everyone's going to say is that it's going to increase the distribution and production of chips around the world and potentially accelerate this whole AI boom. But I don't know.
There's a few good ones here. So Ain DeCastro had a few book suggestions: Eloquent JavaScript and Social Engineering. Social engineering I've heard of. Eloquent JavaScript I have not. So thank you for the suggestions. And then Rodrigo, what sources do you guys use to intake news from? Example, Wall Street Journal, Twitter, etc. That's a really good question, and it's going to become increasingly more difficult and increasingly more important to learn the skill of modern day media literacy. So I do a bunch of different sources, and I usually try to fact check anything that I'm consuming from multiple other sources to see how accurate it is. What's your answer to that question, Keith?
Yeah, I mean, I try to find the most balanced places that I can for one. So, I mean, I am actually a huge X person. I'm not going to cap. I go there and then I'll fact check anything that I see there on other sources. And then Reuters for like my main normal publication, because I think they keep a very balanced approach and stay out of the politics. I mean, unless they're talking politics. But at least even then, it's super balanced the way that they're talking about things on Reuters. So I always go there for my economic news from like a, traditional source.
Got it. Yeah, there's a platform that there's platforms that are emerging that are trying to make it easier to spot bias from different sources and things of that nature. And I'm not going to mention them by name because they may eventually sponsor us or something. So I can't give them a free promo.
Love it.
It's a paid service. I don't think they have a free plan. If they did have a free plan, I'd let you guys know. But what was I going to say? That's anything else in the chat?
I'm not seeing too much else in the chat ski.
So then we may wrap it up here then if you guys got nothing else. What are we thinking for streams the rest of the week, Keith? So obviously tomorrow is Christmas Eve. So I think, right? Let me double check.
Yeah, that's correct, man.
Okay. So do you want to take tomorrow and then Christmas off and like to wrap up the rest of the week, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the best approach for me, man. I'm not going to lie.
Cool. So then no streams the rest of the week. So this is the last time we will see you guys until after Christmas. So Merry Christmas to anyone who celebrates. Happy holiday to anything else that you're celebrating. And then we'll be back Tuesday, December 30th. We have a guest who's an expert on the housing market. So definitely we'll be coming back hot and heavy there. It'll be great. And then, yeah, we'll get back to our normally scheduled programming of Tuesdays and Thursdays in the new year as well. And then we'll adjust things accordingly as things grow. As you guys have more or less demand for it, we'll adjust.
Absolutely. Happy holidays to everyone out there. I'm going to miss you. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to miss you guys.
100%. Big time. Does anyone have anything they're excited about going into the holidays?
Is Elon actually closing in on $1 trillion? I mean, dang, he is. Wow. He's at 700 billion, y'all. Yeah, I didn't see that. I guess that's something that hit the news.
Well, his pay package, right? Where if he's successful, he'll become a trillionaire, right?
Wow. This one is saying he's worth 800 billion. Oh no, SpaceX, sorry. Wait, what? SpaceX is worth 800 billion? That's crazy. Guys, a private company being worth $800 billion is insane.
That's absurd.
And it means that all of the wealth generation that is happening is not available to the public.
Yes.
um, that is out of hand.
Well, what's OpenAI now?
I mean, dude, it ain't no dang 800 billion. I hope not.
It's probably not. Yeah, it's 830 valuation. I know someone who is part of their latest funding round, and he explained to me the terms of it, and it was freaking ridiculous.
That's insane.
And I'm like, I even said to him, I'm like, you guys are already so rich. It's crazy that like we don't even get to play.
Wow, dude. You're talking about multiple private companies now. All of industry is going, they're not going to go public, if at all, until they're worth multi-trillions of dollars. Like, that makes it really hard to participate in wealth creation as far as from an investment perspective. I don't know what fixes that, really. I don't know if you find a way to fix that problem.
Yeah. So we got one here. I recently got laid off. Sorry to hear that. I'm excited for the opportunity to grow and build something that's my own. That's the right attitude. Become obsessed with the opportunity. And know I can watch you two along the way so that I can keep growing and learning. Thank you both. No, thank you, Trevor. We appreciate you coming in here. And oftentimes setbacks are your biggest blessings. And they only become that when you become obsessed with that reality. So how do you turn this into the biggest win of your life? If you just become obsessed with that, it will become a reality. Every time I've been knocked down in my entire life, every time I've wanted to quit, I look back on it now and I'm so grateful. And it probably could have happened earlier if I could have gotten to a place of gratitude and excitement earlier. So this is not the end. This is the beginning of something better. Do you
I love
guys?
that. And that's definitely the right way to go about it right now with where we're at is like, I mean, this is really, I think it might be the only answer. It's like, yeah, it's time to start your own thing.
It's why we talk about entrepreneurship so much here. It's because it's becoming a necessity. And so we try to give you the tools and resources as people who have just more time in the game, right? Like I've been doing this shit for 10 years, Entrepreneurship Plus. And so there's a lot of things that I've learned and so many screw ups that I've made where I want to try to give you guys all of those so you can fast track your way to getting something, getting a win on the board. Because if you make your first dollar for yourself, your mind changes. If you do that through an online mechanism, it changes again. And then you start seeing the world so differently. This is why it's hard to talk to people who haven't done that, because it's like you're operating in two different worlds. So really the stuff we talk about is really just trying to jump you to that place, that 0 to 1, because you can really, really discover a lot of stuff that way. And you can learn so much faster too, Trevor. So with the tools that you have access to in terms of content, in terms of AI tools, if you're serious about the opportunity, and I will say this, Trevor, is that become really okay with feeling dumb. If you can do that a lot, you'll very quickly get to a place where all of the progress is in that little bit of resistance. And fortunate for you is with all the resources out there, it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller, but it will still be very uncomfortable. And so if you can withstand discomfort for a prolonged period of time where you become native with this stuff, you can achieve in a year what previously would have taken a decade, man.
Let's go, Trevor.
That's it. Happy holidays, man. Well, I got nothing else. If there's nothing else in the chat, I want to thank all of you guys so much for the support. We've only been running this show for a few months. You got something? Go for it.
Do you guys think SpaceX is overvalued? Well, we don't know anything about it because it's a private company.
And we also don't get to decide that because there's so many things restricting what that business means, right? Like it's not like it's some consumer thing where we get to decide. The market is tiny. So if they say it's worth more, then it's worth more.
If the government keeps bidding up all the contracts and giving it to them,
yeah,
right, it's over.
It's held. Tapping in late, but I made it. Appreciate having you here, Larry. Appreciate you tremendously. Josh wants a video on the $800 billion company thing, so you should make a video on that if it makes sense.
Real.
And then Caroline, well, thank you. We appreciate you. I think AI is being held back from the public. That's also something that I consider too, right? Where if the consumers are getting this level of crazy AI, there has to have been models and stuff that we never see for a long period of time.
I mean, that's actually something that is on the Moonshots podcast. They talk about is OpenAI and are these companies holding punches? Is the phrase they used, right? Like, are they actually not dropping
Well,
all the stuff that they have too?
I think they've got to be, because who can really afford them or afford what they want? It's really only nation states.
Good point.
So you do enough to the public to create mass hysteria, panic, and you basically say, like, the only way you can really regulate this is with something even more powerful. We'll license it to you in perpetuity. Look,
Mm.
even aerospace, that happens all the time. That's also why the whole UFO stuff is such like a shit show, is because the government has given access to technologies, like, allegedly, to specific actors that then the companies then license back that technology to the government. So that creates just a shit show across the board, right? So there's a lot of stuff that will probably come out here, but it hasn't come out yet because people are worried they're going to go to jail.
Fair. Yeah.
What I mean by that is they don't give us the smartest AI. Yeah, we're saying the same thing. XO, no
Yeah.
Timster. That's exactly what we're saying. One more. We got Fleep saying, y'all are dope. Keep doing your things. Guys, appreciate you. You're dope. We appreciate you chiming in. We appreciate all you guys so much. I was going back to that point of, I just want to say thank you guys so much. It means the world to me. And I think we want to continue to make this a space where we all get better from it. And I think that you guys have played your role, and we're going to continue to play ours. And so while you're going into the holidays, I want you to approach the holidays with like a very open mind around the people that you're talking to. And I would challenge you to have conversations you don't normally have, right? So like if there's someone who you really disagree with, what I would love, if I've given you any bit of value, would be to try to have a conversation with them, connect with them on why they feel the way that they feel, and approach it from a place of not anger, but curiosity, discovery, etc. Right? And see what you can do from that. Because I think a lot of people are very angry, a lot of people that they actually love, and they don't even realize that they all fell for a scam.
That's a good one, man. Another thing that I'll say is hug your people. Hug them tight.
That's it, man. That's it. 100%. Well, I've got nothing else. Do you have anything you want to?
Nope. I'll bet the technology that the public has is at least 1,000 years. 1,000 years behind what it's built. That's a long time.
I don't even think that's that crazy, though. And also, because what is even, like, we use time as a benchmark, which is really kind of silly, right? Because if you're going over the last 1,000 years, the rate of change over the last 100 would be thousands, right? Like in relation to each other. So I don't think that Keith left that comment. Keith, I don't think that's crazy.
Fair enough.
What Keith said about SpaceX is scary AF. What did you say about SpaceX? Did I miss something?
Just the private nature of these companies, I think, and because he also said, what does that mean for the future and the wealth gap? I mean, it means it gets way worse.
Well, that's what they also do, right? These power structures is you'll fight for something, and then they'll give you what you fought for, but they'll just change the rules of the game, right? Like the Freedom of Information Act. Why did they start giving all these private contractors access to this technology? It's because you can't Freedom of Information Act a private organization, right?
That's
so
right.
So it was basically like, okay, yeah, cool, yeah, we'll tell you whatever you want to know, but then they just do it in a different place.
100%, man. Good point.
All right, well, thank you guys so much. We will be seeing you on December 30th, so mark your calendars. It'll be a real estate episode, and thank you guys so much for helping us grow this community. We got a lot of work to do, but we're excited by it all, and we hope you have an amazing Christmas, holidays, whatever.
There's 50 people watching still. Hit that like button. Hit that like button if you haven't already subscribed.
Also, when you're at your little family gatherings and everything like that, bring up memes and markets, right? It might start a conversation. There might be a topic, something that you learned here. That's my challenge for you, is bring up something that you learned to your family and see what that sparks.
Bang, bang. Bring them to the conversation.
That's it, yeah. Send them the link. And yeah, like I said before, our Substack will be up and live as soon as we can get it live, and you'll be able to find it in the description box of every prior episode. But thank you so much, guys. We appreciate you tremendously, and I'll let Keith sign out.
Until next time, peace.
Peace. Bye-bye.